At 2 in the morning, Prince Namdi woke to a wet bed. He shook Ifeoma awake, his voice filled with anger and confusion. "What is this?" Ifeoma began to cry, her voice trembling. "It was a mistake. It has never happened before." Ifeoma was the only child of her doting parents, who cherished her beyond measure. From a young age, Ifeoma had a peculiar problem: she wet the bed almost every night. At first, her parents dismissed it as a common childhood issue, and their love for her only grew. "Don't cry, my precious," her mother would coo, holding her close. "It's just a little accident. You'll grow out of it." But Ifeoma didn't grow out of it. As the years passed, her bedwetting continued. By the age of 15, it was still a nightly occurrence. Her parents, however, never scolded her. Instead, they pampered her, giving her anything she desired and shielding her from any shame or embarrassment. "Ifeoma is our treasure," her father would say. "We must protect her from all harm." Despite their unconditional love, Ifeoma grew into a rude and entitled young woman. She believed she was superior to others in the village, and she never hesitated to put people down with her sharp tongue. At the age of 21, she was still bedwetting, and her parents' worry grew with each passing day. "We can't let anyone know," her mother whispered to her father one evening. "It's too shameful." Her father nodded, a deep frown etched on his face. But what will become of her? Who will marry her? Their fears were soon put to the test during the village's grand festival. The event was a kaleidoscope of colors, music, and joy, attracting people from neighboring villages. It was there that the young prince, Namdi, laid eyes on Ifeoma for the first time. "Who is that?" he asked his friend, his eyes fixed on her. "That's Ifeoma, the most beautiful girl in the village," his friend replied. "But be careful, she's known for her sharp tongue and rude behavior." But the prince was already captivated. He approached Ifeoma, and to his surprise, she was polite and charming, hiding her true nature behind a mask of sweetness. "I've never seen such beauty," the prince said, bowing slightly. "May I have the honor of knowing your name?" "Ifeoma," she replied, her voice soft and melodious. "And you are?" "I am Namdi, the prince of this village." They spoke for hours, and by the end of the evening, Prince Namdi was smitten. He invited Ifeoma to visit the palace, and she eagerly accepted, seeing an opportunity to elevate her status. The following day, Ifeoma's parents were both elated and anxious when she told them about the prince's invitation. They knew this could be a turning point for their daughter, but they were also acutely aware of her secret. "We must make sure she looks perfect," her mother said, fussing over her hair and dress. "No one must know." "I don't see why you're so worried," Ifeoma said, rolling her eyes. "I'm not a child anymore." "We know, Ifeoma," her father said gently. "But this is important. You must be on your best behavior." Ifeoma arrived at the palace that evening, her beauty radiating in the twilight. Prince Namdi greeted her with a warm smile and escorted her to the grand dining hall, where his family awaited. The hall was adorned with intricate tapestries and golden chandeliers, casting a warm glow over the gathering. The king and queen welcomed Ifeoma with open arms, curious to meet the woman who had captured their son's heart. As they dined, a young maid accidentally spilled water on Ifeoma's dress. Her face twisted in rage. "Are you blind?" she shouted. "How dare you ruin my dress?" The room fell silent. The prince and his parents were taken aback by her outburst but said nothing. They continued the dinner, but the atmosphere was tense. After the meal, the prince asked Ifeoma to stay the night, but she declined, citing her need to take care of her parents. "Is everything all right?" the prince asked, concern etched on his face. "Yes, of course," Ifeoma replied hastily. "I just need to be home tonight." The prince watched her leave, a sense of unease settling in. "What do you think of her, mother?" he asked after Ifeoma had gone. "She's beautiful, no doubt," the queen replied. "But her behavior tonight, it worries me." "Give her time," the king added. "Maybe she was just nervous." As Ifeoma ran back home, she felt a growing sense of panic. "I need help," she cried to her parents when she got home. "I can't keep this up." Her parents, ashamed and helpless, had no solutions to offer. "We should have done something sooner," her mother lamented. "Now it's too late." "We'll find a way," her father said, trying to comfort them both. "We have to." The next day, Ifeoma sat by the river, lost in thought. Her friend Amara approached her, noticing her distress. "Ifeoma, what's wrong? You seem troubled." "It's nothing," Ifeoma replied curtly, not wanting to reveal her secret. Amara sighed. "You know, if you ever need to talk, I'm here for you." "Thanks, Amara," Ifeoma said, managing a weak smile. "I'll be fine." But Ifeoma knew she was far from fine. She felt trapped in a web of her own making, unable to break free. Her beauty had brought her admiration, but her secret and her behavior threatened to ruin everything. One day, while returning from the market, Ifeoma encountered a mysterious old woman carrying a heavy basket of fruits. "Help me, child," the old woman requested. Ifeoma scoffed. "Do it yourself, old woman. I'm not your servant." The old woman, a healer from a nearby village, fixed her with a piercing gaze. "Your beauty will be your curse," she said. "Because of your character, you will remain beautiful, but you may never find a cure for your ailment." Ifeoma walked away, shrugging off the old woman's words. She continued to avoid sleeping over at the palace, managing to maintain her secret. The prince, enchanted by her beauty, proposed marriage, despite his parents' reservations. "I don't know about this, Nemdi," the queen said. "There's something she's not telling us." "She's the one I want to marry," the prince insisted. "I love her." The wedding was a grand affair, with celebrations that lasted for days. Ifeoma felt like she was living a dream. She wore a dress of the finest silk, and the villagers marveled at her beauty as she walked down the aisle. The prince, however, noticed a change in his bride's demeanor as the night progressed. On their wedding night, Ifeoma could not avoid sharing a bed with her husband. She stayed awake until the early hours, but exhaustion overcame her, and she fell asleep. At 2 in the morning, Prince Namdi woke to a wet bed. He shook Ifeoma awake, his voice filled with anger and confusion. "What is this?" Ifeoma began to cry, her voice trembling. "It was a mistake. It has never happened before." But nights passed, and Ifeoma continued to wet the bed. She tried to stay awake, but her efforts were in vain. One night, after a heavy meal, she fell into a deep sleep, and the inevitable happened. Prince Namdi, now aware of her condition, was furious. "You knew about this and kept it from me," he shouted. "You deceived me." He threw her out of the palace, her secret finally exposed. Ifeoma returned to her parents, devastated and humiliated. The village soon learned of her condition, and she became a subject of pity and scorn. "How could we have been so blind?" her father lamented. "We should have sought help long ago." Ifeoma, now ostracized, spent her days in sorrow. She remembered the old woman's words and regretted her rudeness and arrogance. She realized that her beauty had indeed become her curse, and her character had denied her the help she so desperately needed. Desperate for a solution, Ifeoma decided to seek out the old woman. She traveled to the nearby village and found the healer in a small, humble hut. "I was wrong," Ifeoma admitted, tears streaming down her face. "I was rude and arrogant, and now I am paying the price. Please, help me." The old woman looked at her with compassion. "True change comes from within," she said. "You must prove that you have learned your lesson." She gave Ifeoma a series of tasks to complete, each designed to teach humility and kindness. Ifeoma helped the villagers with their chores, fetched water, and cared for the sick. Slowly, she began to understand the value of hard work and compassion. Word of Ifeoma's transformation reached the prince. Intrigued, he decided to visit her. He found her in the midst of her tasks, her once pristine hands now calloused and dirty. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "I need to change," Ifeoma replied, her eyes filled with sincerity. "I was wrong, and I need to make amends." The prince watched her for days, seeing the genuine change in her behavior. He began to see beyond her beauty and recognize her efforts to become a better person. One day, as Ifeoma was helping an elderly woman, the prince approached her. "I see you have changed," he said. "But why did you never tell me about your condition?" "I was ashamed," Ifeoma admitted. "I feared you would reject me." The prince sighed. "Ifeoma, I loved you for who I thought you were. But now, I see who you truly are. Everyone has flaws, but it is how we deal with them that defines us." The prince decided to give Ifeoma another chance. He spoke with his parents, who were skeptical but agreed to meet her again. Ifeoma was nervous, but she faced them with newfound humility. "I was wrong to deceive you," she said. "But I have changed, and I want to make amends." The king and queen listened, impressed by her sincerity. They agreed to let her return to the palace, but under one condition: she must continue her tasks of humility and service. As the days passed, Ifeoma's condition began to improve. The old woman's herbs and remedies, combined with her change in lifestyle and mindset, worked wonders. Her bedwetting became less frequent, and she felt more in control. The prince and Ifeoma grew closer, their bond strengthened by honesty and mutual respect. They spent time together, not as prince and subject, but as two people who had learned valuable lessons about life and love. One night, as Ifeoma lay in bed, she thought about the old woman's words. She realized that the curse had indeed been lifted, not by magic, but by her own actions and change of heart. The prince entered the room and sat beside her. "You have proven yourself, Ifeoma," he said softly. "You have become someone truly beautiful, inside and out." Tears welled up in Ifeoma's eyes. "Thank you for giving me a second chance," she whispered. Their marriage was rebuilt on a foundation of trust and love. Ifeoma continued her acts of kindness, becoming a beloved figure in the village. She and the prince lived happily, their story serving as a reminder to all that true beauty lies within. In the end, Ifeoma's journey of self-discovery and redemption taught her the importance of humility, kindness, and honesty. She became a beacon of hope, proving that it is never too late to change and make amends. The villagers, inspired by her transformation, started to embrace the values of compassion and humility, ensuring that Ifeoma's legacy would endure for generations to come.